A very warm welcome, dear students. Welcome to the third audio session of Contract Act with me, CA Preeti Aggarwal. In my earlier lectures, I had discussed what is the meaning of an agreement, when does it become a contract. In my last lecture, we had studied few essential elements of a valid contract. And now let us continue. And in today's session, we are going to discuss the remaining essential elements and we are going to finish that part of essential elements of a valid contract. My revision podcast lectures available on the website have similar content, but there we devise all the section numbers, keywords in story format. We have booster videos which will help you to memorize all the sections as well as the head points which are important to be written in the exam. So do visit my website capreetiaggarwal.com for podcast lectures. We do have a combo product where you will get a compiler as well as the podcast. So you can take advantage of that combo offer by visiting my website capreetiaggarwal.com. Okay, let us continue with the next essential elements. I think we discussed two parties, proper offer, acceptance, enforceability, and free consent. Let us continue with the next essential element, that is capacity of parties. Yeah, can you tell me who all are competent to contract? So we have major person, person of sound mind, and person who is not disqualified. This is given under section 11. So section 11, it lists the persons who are competent to contract: major person, person of sound mind, and person who is not disqualified from contracting. So who are disqualified? Alien enemy, foreign sovereigns, which includes king, queen, monarchs, rulers, representative of foreign state. Convict, someone who is in prison. Insolvent, they are not competent to contract. So major person is a person who is above 18. Person of sound mind, he is normal, sane, he is capable of understanding the terms of the contract, forming rational judgments. So they are competent to contract. Can I say in other words, minor or person of unsound mind or a person who is disqualified, they are not capable of entering into contract? Any contract with them is void. So today we are also going to study what is the meaning of the word void. My next essential element is that the consideration must be lawful. This is discussed under section 23. It is important for exam. Now, consideration means something in return. Nobody enters into a contract for free. If I am giving goods, I need money. If I am giving services, I need money. If I am giving money, I need services. So both the parties must get something in return. So it is essential that both the parties must get something in return. Now, what is consideration? Consideration in simple term means consideration means something in return, and the Latin phrase is quid pro quo. So both parties must get consideration. We also have examples over here, like X offers to sell his table to Y for 5,000 rupees. If X is giving a table, what is he getting in return? 5,000. So what is the consideration for X? It is 5,000. And if Y is giving 5,000, what is he getting in return? Table. So consideration for Y is table. Consideration must be lawful. Okay. So we discussed what is consideration. Consideration means something in return. Both the parties must get something in return. And that consideration must be lawful. Lawful means something which is accepted by law. Now, X offers to give a job to Y in the government department, and Y in return promises to pay rupees 1 lakh. This is nothing but bribe. Is this valid contract? See, there is consideration for both the parties. For X, consideration is 1 lakh. For Y, consideration is job in the public office. There is consideration for both the parties. But is this a valid consideration? Is this lawful consideration? No. So contract is not valid. Then we have, again under section 23, lawful object. Object is a purpose for which the contract has been entered. That object must be lawful. Both are covered in section 23 because if the object is lawful, automatically the consideration will also be lawful. If the object is unlawful, the purpose of entering into the contract is unlawful, then the consideration will also be unlawful. So both are discussed under section 23 because both are connected to each other. So object is the purpose for which the contract is entered. The object must be lawful. So X offers to sell rice to Y. Yes, it's a lawful object, valid contract. But what if X offers to sell drugs to Y? Now, selling of drugs is an unlawful object. Even the consideration here is unlawful. The contract is not valid as the object is forbidden by law. Forbidden means it is illegal. The next essential element is that the agreement must not expressly be declared void. Although we have used the word void many times in the past, but now we will actually study what is the meaning of the word void. See, void may be either void ab initio or just void. Void ab initio, it means the contract is void right from the beginning, like entering into contract with minor or entering into contract for killing someone, smuggling. These are void right from the beginning. Void is the opposite of valid. Valid means it is enforceable by law. Void means the agreement is not enforceable by law. So void is the opposite of valid. Now void may be either void ab initio or just void. Void ab initio, it means the contract is void right from the beginning. Just void means that the contract was valid when entered. Later on, it became void due to certain circumstances. Now let's say, for example, that X offered to supply rice to Y who was staying in Bangladesh. When he had entered into contract, everything was valid. But before he could supply rice, the government of India imposed a ban on export of rice. Now in this case, is the contract possible? It is capable of being performed? No. When the contract was entered, that time everything was fine. It was valid contract. But later on, because of the ban that was imposed, we cannot export rice. The agreement becomes void. Your agreement must not be expressly declared void. Now in law, there are certain agreements which are expressly declared void. So law says that you cannot enter into such agreements. A list is given to you. Let's go through that. Agreement and restraint of marriage, section 26. See, you cannot stop a person from marrying someone of his or her choice. Such restraining agreements are void. Let's say that X tells Y, I will give you 50 lakh rupees, don't marry ever. Complete restraint. A tells B, I'll give you 5 lakh rupees, marry any person, but don't marry C. Partial restraint. See, India is a free democratic country. Once we are of a marriageable age, we can marry any person of our choice. Such restraining agreements, restraining means you are giving money to the other person and telling him not to marry either entirely or not to marry a particular person. Such restraining, such stopping agreements, they are void. To restrict means to stop someone from doing something. So be it complete restraint or partial restraint, in India, every kind of restraint is void. Then we have agreements and restraint of trade, very important, section 27. Now X and Y, they were carrying on a business in Chandni Chowk of Delhi. X promises to pay 10 lakh to Y if Y stopped his business. See, you can't stop someone from doing business of his or her choice. We are a free democratic country. I can do any kind of business I want, anywhere I want. Such restricting agreements are void. See, we are a free country. We can do any lawful business. Somebody is giving me money and asking me not to carry on business in a particular area. You're stopping me from doing business. Such agreements are void. Now, agreements in nature of wager. Wager is betting, section 30. A promises to pay 100 rupees if it rained on a particular day, and B promised to pay 100 rupees if it did not. So it is like, they are betting whether it will rain or not. Such agreements are void. It is wager. Wager means betting. In India, betting is void. The next essential element is section 29. Meaning must be certain. See, the contract must be certain, capable of being performed, and there must not be any confusing word or ambiguous word. The terms, the words which are used in the agreement, they must all be certain, clear, not vague. So section 29, it says that agreements, the meaning of which is not certain or it is not capable of being certain, they are void. Now let's say that X is a dealer in different kinds of oil. Okay, he deals in coconut oil, sesame oil, sunflower oil. He promises to sell 100 liters of oil to Y for 100 rupees at 100 rupees per liter. Is the agreement valid? The kind of oil is not specified. Agreement is void. But what if I say that X is a dealer in coconut oil only? then we need not specify which oil he is referring to in the agreement. It is understood. In that case, the agreement will be valid. So if the meaning is capable of being understood from the facts, then the contract is void. Then the contract is valid. Next, we have that the contract must be capable, or it should be possible of being performed. Section 56. Now, X offers to sell his house to Y for 2 crores. Yes, we can perform this contract. It is very much capable of being performed. But what if X promises to bring a moon from the sky? So, promising to bring moon, star from the sky, all these are not physically possible to be performed. Agreement is impossible, thus void. The last requirement is legal formalities. In case there is some legal formality, like agreement has to be in writing, it must be registered, that it must be attested, that it must be properly stamped. In case there is any legal formality, then we need to comply with that. Otherwise, even oral contracts are valid. But law requires certain contracts which have to be in writing. We require attestation. So if there is any such requirement, then that legal formality will have to be followed. If there is no legal formality, then you can make contract as and how you want. So X offers to sell his house to Y by an oral agreement. Now law requires that an agreement for immovable property, agreement for gift, it has to be in writing, it has to be registered and properly stamped. So if there is such requirement, then that legal formality needs to be complied with. So giving gift or selling your house, it's an immovable property, agreement has to be in writing. Okay, so there are certain cases, special cases, where it lays down that the agreement must be in writing, registered, then that legal formality needs to be complied with. We studied 11 essential elements. Now all these 11 essential elements must be present to make a valid contract. If any of these elements is missing, then it will not be a valid contract. Now what kind of questions can be asked on this part? Generally, they will ask you a question on any one of these essential elements. I don't think they will ask you a question to write all the essential elements in detail, but we can't trust the institute too much. So in case a question is asked on all the essential elements of a valid contract, then these are the 11 essential elements which you will write in your answer. You will have to write in point format and give at least one example. Not at least, I think you should give one example for every essential element to support your answer. If it is asked in the exam, this question will be for somewhere around 6 to 7 marks. Okay. Now, in my next video, I will discuss a few questions with you based on the first chapter. So, my homework for you is that you need to you need to learn. Okay. Now, you sit and learn all the provisions of the essential elements of a valid contract, and in the next lecture, we will discuss how to solve questions, how to write the answer, what is the format that you should follow, how to identify the keywords, and I will train you on how to write the answer in exam. Okay, so next session will be our question answer session. So I'll see you there.